Okay, I'll call this meeting of the Kerrville Planning and Zoning Commission to order at 4:31. Dorothy, would you call roll, please?
Yes, sir. Bob Waller.
Here.
Garrett Harmon.
Here.
Tricia Byram. Here. Dave Jones.
Here.
Rustin Zuber.
Here.
Jim Brown.
Here.
Bill Morgan.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have a quorum. I'll go ahead before the meeting starts and introduce Jim Brown, one of our newest members of Planning and Zoning. It's an alternate member.
Thank you.
Welcome.
My pleasure to serve.
Welcome. And, okay, call to order number 1, Visitor Citizens Forum. Anybody wishing to talk about a non-scheduled item on this needs to fill out a speaker request form. And if you want to speak, please go to the podium, state your name and address. And we're going to limit any speaker to 3 minutes. Consent agenda is number 2. All items below are on the consent agenda considered routine or ministerial nature and be enacted in one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of items unless a commissioner or citizen so requests, in which case the item be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Item 2A, approval of the minutes from the June 21, 2018 meeting. Members, you should each have a copy of that.
One correction on the call to order. That would be Commissioner Harmon called the Planning and Zoning Commission to order.
And Bob, I've got a
Yes, you have.
comment at the last sentence of 3A. I'm thinking we may want to change the wording on that slightly to be a little more clear. What we did is we removed, we said that RT was, you would not get a conditional use permit. You could not, it was not a conditional use for the parking lots in RT. So I don't know how the best way to word that, but it's written a little bit confusing.
Maybe remove the conditional use permit as an option under the RT zoning
Yeah, that would be,
for parking lots
okay, that would be better.
specifically. If y'all can rephrase that. Any other comments? If not, I'll take a motion.
I'll move we accept the minutes with those 2 changes.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All approval, raise your right hand.
I'll abstain since I wasn't present.
Okay, I wasn't present either, so it's 3 to 2. 2 abstentions because we weren't here. Can we go ahead and approve it?
Can I approve it without having been part of the meeting?
Okay.
Okay, we'll change that to 5-0 approval. Just want to make sure we're staying in the guidelines. I want Mike to get upset with us. Okay, I think Dorothy, that's the only set of minutes we have for approval this time. So we'll go ahead and strike out 2B and 2C. And we'll go to number 3, which is public hearing consideration and action. Number 3A. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a conditional use permit to allow a personal services 1 of a beauty salon at 1220 Broadway. That's at the corner of Broadway and C Street. There's another map with the notification area. The conditional use permit is required. There is the reuse of this building will certainly fit the area. The building is existing. They've got a shared parking with the adjacent property owner. As you can see in the photo, both access from C Street. The applicant is here if you have any more specific questions about the business. Staff supports the request for approval, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Okay, this requires a public hearing.
That's correct.
Okay, I'll open the public hearing at 4:36. Anybody wishing to make a statement in this regard, please approach the podium. Give your name and address, please. Hearing none, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing at 4:37. Commissioners, any questions, comments?
I just had one question for the owner. How many employees do you plan on having in that location?
Would you state your name, please?
I'm Dina Caffey, and it's just going to be a one. I have 2 stations, and it's just for my son and myself.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Drew, what are the parking requirements? Is there adequate parking?
So off the top of my head, it's one space for 300 square feet.
The space is 600.
Yeah, it's 550, 600 square feet. So
Okay.
you've got 2 parking spaces. No problem there.
There's no designated parking, but there's ample parking for both of those facilities.
Right.
If there are no other questions, I'll accept a motion.
I move we approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Approved 5-0. Thank you. Okay, item 3B is another public hearing. Drew.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. This is the 300 block of Holdsworth Drive, north side of Holdsworth, west side of Norfolk. The request is for N20 or 24 in to allow, the use proposes for a barber shop. This district is actually specifically written more for Quinlan Creek and Sidney Baker area of town, but this has similar characteristics with Town Creek being nearby, Holdsworth being a major road through town as it's continuing to develop, and the adjacent residential property. Allowable place types, or excuse me, this is part of the Kerrville 2050 Catalyst Area number 5, which includes much of Holdsworth Drive, the sports complex, and Harper Road up towards I-10. Allowable place types would include multiple types of residential, community, and regional commercial, and entertainment type mixed use. This use being a community commercial as it's serving the area around it. Proposal fits with the community commercial place type and is consistent with the comp plan. Staff recommends approval of this case, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions before or after the public hearing.
Okay, let's go ahead and open the public hearing. I'll open the public hearing at 4:39. Anybody wishing to make comments on this proposal, please go to the podium, state your name and address. Hearing none, seeing none, I close the public hearing at 4:40. Commissioners, questions?
I'm a little confused on exactly where this.
Isn't this actually the 400 block, not the 300 block?
It's actually not officially addressed yet, so.
There we go. That helps.
Yeah.
With not much reference point, most adjacent assigned address is all plastics, which is on the other side of Norfolk. That'd be the 200 block. So going Norfolk, the next street started with the 300 block. And you can see just off the screen there, all plastics is right around here.
Okay.
They're on Holdsworth Drive. So the Croc Center is a little further to the south, and the intersection of Harper is a little further to the north.
And those houses are the ones that have been, I think they started a few years back.
That's correct. This photograph, I believe, is 2016.
Okay.
There's a few more houses on the ground.
There's
today.
more houses now.
But the neighborhood is still building out as currently.
So what is the zoning around this lot here?
This lot is actually zoned R1 as part of the original zone case for the neighborhood. The green you see on the map here is actually outside the city limits. So that portion of Holdsworth and the property immediately to the west is in the county, so there is no zoning.
Okay.
But this specific footprint is in the city?
Is in the city, correct. So this property,
So would it end up being one lot with a different zone?
yes, this property actually is about 6 acres, 7 acres?
7.964.
Wrong direction.
Property.
And this property actually wraps around the subdivision about to here, kind of the hillside behind the subdivision. We are carving out just a portion of that for the frontage, not intending to use any commercial development back behind that.
Where's the access to Holdsworth from there?
There is not any current access, so they'd be allowed one curb cut off of Holdsworth Drive.
That's already been approved.
No, it has not.
Is that part of this request?
It is not. So that'll go
Okay.
through city engineering office. There is a storm drain near the frontage of this property, so they'll have to work around that and coordinate that with the engineering department.
So we're only asked to look at the zoning change.
That's correct.
But it's for the whole property?
And no, it's just for this portion.
That
So the
.28.
remaining, yeah, the 0.28 acres, the remaining acreage will stay R1.
Is
Or,
there,
excuse me, RC, thank you.
is there any other access other than, is that a property line, the black? The black
Yes.
is property.
That's correct.
So is any other access to the backside of your? Yikes.
Yeah, this would be the only access point to the full 7 acres.
I mean, even though the good portion of Holdsworth Drive is outside the city limits, I think it's, intentionally it was designed to have commercial or light commercial running along Holdsworth on both sides with some mixed use opportunities for apartments and other things in there also. I think the use makes sense, but it's just in kind of a weird location with the city boundaries and some other things. I think it'd be a tough site to build on, but I think that the use is probably appropriate for along Holdsworth.
Are there any additional screening requirements? I know those houses have fences, I believe. but-
There would be a screening requirement if they work with those property owners to build another fence adjacent to it, or if the existing fence would be sufficient. We'll look at that through the building permit process. But yes, they would be required screening between the residential properties.
So if we approve this zoning change or make a recommendation to the city council for that, we don't need to put in subject to access?
No, that'll be
That's
part of their
just part of the,
permitting process, right? We'll look at that, start looking at that when they come in for the plat, because it's currently unsubdivided. Engineering will start that conversation then and carry into the permitting process.
And there was notification on
Yes.
this? And no response from neighborhoods?
No. Yes, sir.
Most of those houses have been cut out of the mountain. There's some elevation on this one that is not there with those, is that correct?
Yeah, most of them have a retaining wall behind them.
I believe that's correct, yeah. So the screening
So
fence
they're
would be
gonna
required.
be much higher than the houses.
Yeah, so the screening fence would be required on the barber shop property. So they would be tall enough to screen the house.
Yeah, because they're going to be looking down on the house.
Right.
residential cluster does not include any type of light retail at all.
There are some uses that for conditional use, but none that would work for the barber
For
shop.
this?
Correct.
Is there any issue with just a very small lot with its own zone?
Would be considered spot zoning if this were just standalone, with it being part of the catalyst area for the future land use plan. We are going to start looking at that catalyst area for a more refined land use plan with the different place types. The comprehensive plan does include some regional and commercial, or excuse me, the community commercial within a neighborhood. With that area immediately adjacent being in a county, kind of considering that, as Mr. Harmon pointed out, more of a light commercial serving that area, regional commercial as you get closer to I-10 and Harper Road. We don't have that detailed study area plan of that catalyst area, just a generic description from the comp plan.
Okay, so this is kind of a unique case.
It is.
That kind of justifies that, you think?
Right.
Okay.
And again, with the city limits being immediately adjacent to it, we don't have really any description of what would be next to it at this
Right,
time.
right.
So,
So this is in the city limits or outside the city?
it is in the city limits,
Okay, but barely,
just barely.
It's two sides of it are on the city boundary.
on the boundary line.
Correct. Yeah, sorry, I'll go back to that one. So
It
they-
just seems like a very unusual request without having access. You know, there's not gonna be a frontage road on Holsworth,
Right.
stuff like that. And I don't see them doing a curb cut right there.
The curb cut will be challenging again with the storm drain there. They'll have to work through that with the planning
Well, I mean, just the
process.
traffic flow to get to one spot, just doesn't seem right.
I don't know, I think it's just, we're looking at it the way that area is now. It's pretty wide open. There's no reason for anybody to stop along there. I think as there gets more development, you know, the whole idea of that extension through there was to allow for growth and development. And I think as you get that growth and development, you'll have some more curb cuts and you'll have more development coming in that would complement it. It's just right now, this is kind of the first one on that.
It just
Along
makes
that
sense
strip.
that it might be part of a strip center as opposed to just being a standalone lot with one small business on it.
Yeah, where you have less curb cuts and then you disperse from there. I don't know that that was the intent, to have a bunch of businesses where you pull right into those businesses or not.
Yeah, with our-
Sure.
Sure.
One of the things that's hard
Bruce,
to envision.
tell us.
I'm sorry, Bruce Strachey, 615 Earl Garrett. One of the things that's hard to envision here is there's a 38-acre tract next door that's held by one owner. It's currently working with Brent Bates about doing a large commercial development there, and I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but that's the intention of the adjacent property owner. And in regards to what you're saying, one of the things that's hard to see right now is that the commercial's got to stop somewhere, and the previous developer of this residential neighborhood, for some reason, didn't put a commercial mixed use on the front side of it. They brought the houses all the way down, which in hindsight really wasn't such a great idea. But this could be an entrance to a strip center that goes up over that retaining wall that was built for Holdsworth and ties, you know, that whole 38 acres together. We don't know how that's going to happen, but it's hard to see that with the way we're looking at this map and all.
Right.
I just wanted to give that thought to you guys. I don't know what the property owner next door is going to do, and I have no dog in the hunt with Louis Sanchez or anything. I'm just sitting here looking at it with what I know about that area.
So this could end up being one small retail business, and the adjacent property could become residential development as opposed
Well,
to
it could be because it's
commercial.
in the county. That's correct.
But you're right, the rumor mill,
Oh,
Word on the
there's
street
a big picture. There's a cartoon
it's
on
commercial.
a sign over there,
That's right.
right?
Well, and even if it was all residential, you know, you see barbershops and beauty salons in residential neighborhoods
oh yeah.
Right.
all the time.
Yes. I guess my key concern is just access.
Small
that's-
restaurants, haircut, dentist. You know, you see that personal.
But you see it
services.
as a cluster.
Right.
So, but it's hard to see because it's right on the edge of the city limit right now.
But also, that's a pretty steep hill. It's not super buildable to come in there with a bunch of residential lots.
That particular, well, you're correct about that on the 38
On the
acres to
backside,
the
yeah.
west.
The adjacent
Yeah, that's always been a challenging site for me, and I see that. Anyway, that's a challenging site. I agree. But if there was a curb cut here, there isn't any reason why in the future a cross traffic agreement couldn't be made to have a strip center that went over the top of that retaining wall back there and such. And who knows, right? Who would have guessed they were going to cut out all the earth that they took like 40,000 cubic yards of dirt out of that spot where those houses are. And who would have thought they were going to do that 10 years before they did it, right? This might be the start of something big, and it might just end up being the barbershop that's in that one spot.
Okay, Bruce, thank you. Okay, so basically, if we approve the zoning, or make a recommendation to approve the zoning, it's still subject to a lot of other things during the permitting process.
That's correct.
Okay, Any other comments or questions, David?
Thank you, Mark. Define looking at this same map, that lime green line, that's city limits.
Right.
All right, so the area between Holdsworth and the line then is right away for Holdsworth.
That is correct.
So a curb line would be off of the setback, help me out a little bit here,
So you can see the sidewalk here. This is the existing curb line.
okay?
The approach would come all the way back to the
Across
property.
the county
Correct.
right away
Through the right of way.
into the property.
Yeah, there's your property line there at the tip of the point, and then from there back, you'd have your typical standard setback for the building and parking. The building would be, back quite a ways off the street because there is a large
Yeah.
right of way there from curb to property line. But that's correct. The approach would go from the curb line all the way to the property line, which is currently in the county.
Non-permit required.
Like still being a city-built street, we may have control of the
Whose sidewalk?
specifications.
Did you guys build a sidewalk?
Mhm.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? If not,
I move that we approve the zoning change from residential cluster to 24N. I see some challenges with the site, but I think as far as the use goes, I think it's appropriate considering future expansion. So I move that we approve the change.
hey, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. Thank you. Okay, 3C. Again, a public hearing is required in this.
Thank you. This is considered phase 13 of Comanche Trace. It was actually a portion of this was annexed in 1999. A portion of this was annexed in 2017. This is the area right here along Clubhouse Drive and coming up here to the existing villas near the driving range. This is the driving range here. So from here down to about here was annexed in 2017. Through the process of that annexation, that portion was annexed as R1. Through all of the public hearing process, it was referenced as PD for the different residential cluster setbacks in R1, typical throughout the rest of Comanche Trace. This is a copy of the plat that's been approved and filed. These are the new villa lots, 1 through 6, which were actually part of the original 1999 plan development as part of the golf course, actually. That hole in the golf course didn't take up as much room, so they've got room for those 6 lots. The annexation line is somewhere roughly in here, and this is lots 7 through 34 coming down Clubhouse Drive. There is a request to remove lot 7 here where the cursor is, down this side of the street and up here to lot 21. Those are currently zoned R1, and Comanche Trace is promoting those as single-family lots with the standard setbacks. So the RC zoning is not required for those. Lots 22 through 34 are what Comanche Trace refers to as the garden lots. These are a smaller lot size with the reduced setbacks, and they are requesting the RC zoning on these. The RC zoning for lots 1 through 6 will include 0 lot line. There's the map, the aerial behind it with the notification area. These are lots 1 through 6, and you can see they share a common wall between these pair of houses. This is what they refer to as their villas. It does have a shared parking lot up front, and each with their own driveway and access point. Staff recommends the case for your approval with the changes to remove lots 7 through 21. So those would remain the R1 single-family zoning district. And with that, I'd be pleased to answer any questions now or after the public hearing.
Okay, let's go ahead and open the public hearing at 4:56. Anyone wishing to address the commission, approach the podium and give us your name and address, please. Seeing none, I close the public hearing at 4:57. Comments from the commissioners?
So I guess I'm just trying to still get my head wrapped around all the different zoning. So is all of this currently planned development?
No.
No, okay.
The villa lots up here, let me get back to the plat.
Yeah,
These
that one.
here are zone PD.
Okay.
That original PD, these actually fall within the golf course.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing allowed in that segment of the PD was outdoor recreation. That was not caught with the original plat, because it's kind of hard to see here, but the villas just up the street are in the 2001 or 2002 PD, 2001. When looking at the plat, it originally looks like the 2001 PD, oh, sorry, there we go, actually carried further down and did not include this area. Now that we've got more of this information inputted in the GIS, we can see that those lots 1 through 6 were actually in the original PD. The portion from here down Clubhouse Drive that was annexed in 2017 is currently zoned R1.
And will stay R1.
A portion of it.
Portion.
7 through
Yeah.
21.
7 through 21, which are the larger single-family lots,
Mm-hmm.
will remain R1. The garden lots, which is 22 through 34, is requested to go to RC for the reduced setbacks.
Okay.
And then the lots 1 through 6 again includes this development site plan. So they'll be tied, lots 1 through 6 will be tied to this site plan for their development. With the plating process, all the utilities are in place, the streets are built, ready to start construction on these.
Okay.
So they're both RC and you can do either one in RC?
Right.
Okay.
The 0 lot line does require the development site plan to be approved
Okay.
by the Planning Commission and City Council. So we're tying those 6 lots to this development. The lots 22 through 34 do not require a single or a development site plan because they're not going for a 0 lot line.
Are those townhomes actually connected?
They are. If I'm not mistaken, that's the garage wall, correct?
Yeah, just the garage walls.
Yeah. So you kind of see the driveway comes off this parking lot, a garage on either side of the property line, and then the house outside of that. But they do share one common wall.
Comments? If not, I'll accept a motion.
I move that we approve the zoning as recommended by the city.
Did you say there was with those changes?
Yes, removing lots 7 through 21.
Yes,
That's
with,
included in the request.
yes.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, 3D.
This case has also come before the Planning Commission before. Came in June. Came in as a request for planned development district. The issue we ran into on this one is code currently states a planned development district for non-residential as a minimum of 2 acres. This is shy of that 2 acres. It's worked with the applicant. District 11C has a very similar list of land uses that were proposed with the original PD. still consistent with the community commercial as recommended by the comprehensive plan. Comprehensive plan in several locations or several chapters talks about the reinvestment in the community, looking at less expansion outward, but focusing on some of the areas we already have. This example of rebuilding the restaurant and utilizing one of the houses next door is a light community commercial, is a prime example of that. Here's the rendering of the famous door after some renovations. The parking lot, again, parking lot does have the down lighting, so to produce less glare on the neighborhood. One of the guiding principles of the comprehensive 2050 plan for neighborhoods is to preserve the culture and history of the area for each particular neighborhood. This building has a long history in this neighborhood of being a restaurant, is it taxi service?
It's been a grocery store, taxi service, it's been a bar.
The bar.
Music venue.
Okay.
Barber shop, that's right.
Drew, can you point that out on this slide?
Yes, sorry. The building is located here.
Okay.
The adjacent house that is included is this one here, and then we'll be looking at that for some, again, light community commercial. The parking lot would be back here behind the building, using the existing curb cut just on the south side of the building there. And so there's the site plan. You can see the existing building, showing the parking back behind there. The existing house that is a part of this request is on this lot here.
So it would not share a parking lot? Is that fence, could be fenced off?
I know they've talked about fencing it separate or including it in the fencing. Depends on how some of the future plans play out. So they may bring that fence line straight down and fence them in together. Either way, a fence would be required on this side to the adjacent property owner. It's just not shown in this rendering.
So this brings this into the central business district?
Not the central business district, but it is in the group of central city zoning districts.
Okay.
11C would be, I believe, northwest of the CBD, the downtown area.
Okay.
So it's running back along Junction Highway towards.
Okay, so
or
it
Main Street.
doesn't eliminate parking requirements on site?
That's correct. It does not. It
So
does require.
CBD does, okay.
Right.
That was my
Yeah,
question.
the CBD. You're correct. The CBD does not require on-site parking. 11C does.
Are we comfortable there's enough space there to suitable parking for a restaurant? Good for that?
I know you guys looked at it pretty closely.
It looks like there's quite a bit. I just,
Well, let me do this. Let me open a public hearing.
Okay.
I don't think we've done that yet. I open a public hearing at 5:04. Anybody wishing to make comments on this, approach the podium. Give us your name and address, please. Hearing none, seeing none, we close the public hearing at 5:05. Okay, Bruce?
Represent the applicant. I'm glad to answer any questions y'all have. Tricia, we did look at the square footage of the building for the restaurant, and we do have parking layout that does provide sufficient parking for the current parking guidelines. It's what is it? It's a lot. It's one for every 100 or one for every 4 seats, or it's a huge amount of parking. And then we have like 44 parks
okay,
off street.
okay.
And then there actually is room for parking in front of the other small building that's gonna be a community center, at least that's the current plan. But until we finish this part, the next person who's doing that other drawing you're seeing will be doing, building permits and, remodel permits and those kinds of things, and so we'll confirm all that. But
Okay.
we have done already a development layout that does have
Okay.
plenty of
There
off-street
was-
parking for the restaurant.
There was, I know, I saw there was one resident that was concerned about parking on the street and whatnot, so.
It's a good question. I'm sure that people will park on the street, but we
Sure.
have plenty of off-site parks.
Right,
So we do have I think you have a packet of 13 or 14 letters of support.
yes.
Yeah, she Bruce, the one letter that was brought up some concerns, talked about parking, it talked about just things that might occur in this venue with children in the neighborhood and so forth.
Right, well, I think if you look at the application, some of the things that we've specifically left off is it will not be a bar again. That was purposely, the owner does not want that setting there. Frankly, one of the other things, he's a very religious gentleman and wants to do, have the community center be a place where they could do coursework after school and perhaps some other things. That's just this existing owner, and we don't know what's going to happen in the future. But with the zoning that we're asking for, and the original PD that you all did approve, there's no opportunity for alcohol sales on site, no cocktail lounge, nothing like that. So it's not going to be like what it used to be. I mean, I've heard stories too, right?
That was my concern. Would it revert back?
I heard the question asked, and I guess I phased out and didn't hear the answer. The community center will be fenced off, as indicated
That's
on the...
really not determined yet, and I have drawings done with it out it that way. The other designer that's actually working on the layouts for the buildings and such, he stuck a fence on it. Until we come to the city and with looking for permits and all, that's really not determined yet.
But
Huh?
Today, all we're doing is trying to, we came here once before, you all approved the
Yeah.
PD, and then we found out we weren't really headed the right direction, so we're back again. And we felt this zoning was the most similar to what we'd originally asked for.
Yeah, we supported that, so.
So, we will be back again to the city for permits and screening requirements and all that stuff, David.
Now,
My
where's
best
the,
answer for today.
where's the proposed community center in relation to this building?
It is that
Notch.
small building. You look, the large building is
The
the
existing
existing famous
building?
door.
Yeah,
And
it's
then the
fairly small.
existing
Yeah.
building to the
Bob.
west
Okay, I see.
Bob,
is,
see, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It fits in there
right.
on this rendering.
Right, and then if you were to go by the site today, there's another existing residence to the east. That's gonna get moved down the street. The same owner owns 2 lots further down on West Barnett, and he's gonna relocate that house down there so.
Okay.
You're not talking about right next to the building. That's gone. I mean, that's,
There's one
There's-
right behind it.
The one's gone, but there's another one that's
Right.
there that's gonna move down to West Barnett.
very well.
I don't believe he's moved it yet. He hasn't moved it yet.
As the community center, that's not gonna be shared parking, or that's not determined yet.
We haven't determined that yet. There is plenty of parking for the square footage there, and we have room to add 3 to 4 in the front on the west side of the famous door if we need to. That would be off street as well. I don't think we're going to need it. And part of that's hard, Bob, because the way our parking requirements are written, it's all about the uses. And so it depends, when we actually come with a use, that's when we know exactly
That's
where
when
we
you
are
see
with
what the
parking.
requirements are.
But I can tell you with what the owner's told me his intention is in laying this all out, we have plenty of parks off-street, on-site.
Okay, questions, concerns? If not, I'll accept a motion. Thank you, Bruce.
You're welcome, thank you.
I'll make a motion, we accept the zoning change from R1A to 11C.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All approve, raise your right hand. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Staff reports.
First, I'd like to introduce our new Chief Planning Officer, Rebecca Cassini. She started a week ago, so she's got the code memorized and ready to start working.
She's way ahead of me.
A waste of time, a waste of
She
time.
comes in from 12 years, San Antonio? 12 years, 11 years in San Antonio, working planning division there.
Well, no wonder she looks happy moving up here.
We talked about at our last meeting, kind of reconfiguring our second meeting of the month to be a workshop.
Mhm.
The good news is we don't have anything prepared for the September 20th workshop. so you get the day off. And we'll reconvene again the first meeting in October if we get some cases by then.
Okay.
City Council did appoint the Code Review Committee. I believe City Manager has the list of appointees for that. So that committee's gonna start meeting sometime this month and start looking at prioritizing their list of city codes to be reviewed for updates or overhaul. And we are looking at, of course, the zoning code is a big chunk of that. We will be bringing, through that zoning code update, we're gonna use those workshops as kind of our public forum for that process. Many of you are familiar with the comprehensive plan public input process we had. We had several town hall style meetings. Of course, the comprehensive plan steering committee were all public meetings. We may do kind of a combination of those at the workshops for the planning commission, open to the public with the code review committee and the consultant and the planning commission, to garner that extra public interest. Make sure what we're moving towards follows both the comp plan and the public input.
Can we get a list of the members appointed to that group?
As soon as I get one,
Oh,
I'll
okay, I
pass it
didn't
on.
know it was public yet. Okay.
I've not seen the list yet.
Okay.
I know the city manager is working with council to get that finalized, so.
Okay, any other business?
So the next meeting is October 4th, right now?
Sounds right.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, if nothing else, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
I so moved.
Motion, second?
Second.
Okay, all approved?
Yeah.
5-0, thank you.
Yeah, we all approved.
Yeah.
That's not bad.